So I recently made a video on the Silent Hill 2 remake, discussing why it quickly became a new favorite of mine after playing it at the start of the year. I mean, I just loved it, and now I'm eagerly awaiting Bloober Team's remake of the original Silent Hill. But as that original is readily available to me with the PS3 store, behold, only my second game review for a pre-2000s release, the first also being a PS1 Konami game. I didn't expect the basic setup to be basically the same as 2's, or I guess vice versa, only instead of main character Harry Mason looking for a missing wife, it's a missing daughter. In general, this story was a lot simpler than I expected coming off 2, less psychologically or character driven and more concerning cults, drugs, and typical monsters. But the mystery surrounding those things is interesting, and I found myself intrigued to see how it would all unravel. Although, and I understand this is due to technical limitations, sitting through some of the big exposition dumps staring at what's essentially a static screen isn't the most exciting thing. Now, I knew basically nothing about this game going in, always a cool way to experience something, so it weren't until I was actually playing it did I realize this would be my first proper experience with tank controls, where instead of moving in the direction I'm pointing, I turn Harry moving the control stick left or right, then push up to make him move. Resident Evil 4 technically plays the same, but that camera is over the shoulder, so it wasn't jarring like this was at first. It took me a bit to get used to it, and it's not the ideal control scheme, but when the camera follows Harry from behind whilst roaming the town, it feels pretty normal, and for general exploration, I got comfortable using it. But when it comes to fighting and evading enemies, it's incredibly finicky. In general, I found the combat a bit sluggish. Against slower opponents, shooting works fine. It's pretty funny looking back on the confused deaths I had right at the start because of the lack of an in-game tutorial in the good old days of instruction booklets, and I did have a lot of fun using the hammer. What's the game on about hard to use? But facing off against groups or faster enemies like the dogs, pterodactyls, and especially those bloody bugs, where the lock-on isn't very helpful and there's a delay in button responses. Yes, some might argue this heightens the helplessness of the survival horror, but it made me feel less fearful and more frustrated. Some of the bosses were also quite exasperating to play through as a result. Some are okay, and the first one is neat for how it rewards exploration and world building, but most of the others, while fun conceptually, are a bit clunky, and I was really screwed over being stuck with limited resources taking on the last couple, so they were pretty annoying to fight. Of all the art forms, video games are the most vulnerable to suffer from age, and I unfortunately did find that to be the case here. But, putting the fighting aside to focus on the exploration and puzzle solving, I found this to be a rather absorbing experience elevated by great atmosphere. Right from the opening, you're given the sensation of being trapped in a nightmare and descending into insanity, which gets conveyed in both big and small ways throughout the rest of the game. Moments like the sudden shift into nighttime and some very evocative images genuinely unsettled me, and the choice to obscure the town in fog may have been a practical design choice at the time, but it feels like an essential part of the town's character and overall sense of unease. It's very satisfying to go through each part of these areas, gathering your bearings whilst the map gets marked up, finding medicine or ammo, then figuring out how to progress from there. Now when it comes to that and the puzzles, well, I thought the Silent Hill 2 remake got cryptic, Jesus. These can get pretty out there, so I wound up consulting a guide a fair bit to nudge me in the right direction for how to solve some of these riddles. A couple solutions did have me thinking, oh come on, but for the most part, figuring out what to do and how to use what you've acquired is good fun. And the way the final area Nowhere strips away the security blanket of the map within an intentionally disorienting labyrinth of rooms, I found it incredibly rewarding to memorize the layout and what each room featured as I worked my way through its brain teasers. It was almost like a sense of mastery. So in the end, I liked Silent Hill quite a bit, and now I'm very intrigued to see how Bloober Team expand on the story and characters, although I'll admit there are certain visuals I won't be so keen to see in greater detail.